morning, Andrea. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thanks for joining me this morning.
No
We're going
problem.
to have a conversation all about jurats and acknowledgements this morning. Is that right?
That's right.
Awesome. And I'm not a notary, Andrea, so we got to start with the basics, right?
Okay.
What the heck is a jurat and an acknowledgement? Could you start with just explaining those, just the basics of those?
Sure. So simply put, an acknowledgement is simply you acknowledging that you're signing the document willingly, that you weren't under any kind of distress, that no one is forcing you to sign the document, but that you're doing it willingly. And a jurat is swearing to the truthfulness of the document, ensuring that everything in the document is absolutely accurate to your understanding.
Okay. So an acknowledgement is I'm signing this willingly.
Mhm.
There's nobody with a gun to my head or a hostage somewhere. I guess that
Correct.
would happen, right?
You
And
could.
and the jurat is saying what I am signing is absolutely accurate
To the best of your knowledge.
to the best of your knowledge. Okay. And in both cases, as notaries, we're always still making sure that the person that's signing it is who they say they are.
Correct. That is the most important role of the notary, to ensure that the person who is signing the document is the person that's on the ID, and everything coincides with one another.
Awesome. And we also want to make sure that the person understands what they're signing, right?
Mhm.
So there's a level of competence. We just have an article on that, I think.
Right.
Thank you for helping with that.
No problem.
That's awesome. So what do you think, Andrea? Would it be easiest for us to start with an actual example of an acknowledgement or a jurat? Where would you like to start?
Let's start with an acknowledgement.
Okay. I'm going to share our screen here. And here's one of our sample documents. Is this indeed an acknowledgement?
So this is the borrower's compliance agreement. It, in fact, is a document that would be in a standard loan packet.
Okay.
And so if you scroll down,
Mm-hmm.
you will see that the signers, the part where the signer should sign. So
Okay.
Susan sample in this example, and Samuel sample. So the next page is the acknowledgement.
I
And
see.
this is where the notaries, no, this is the notarial certificate. This is where the notary section begins.
Okay.
So that top box there is what we're working with essentially is a California document. So all California documents that require notarization require that little top box.
Okay.
But in most
Other
other
states don't necessarily have that.
no. So in this example, that top box is there, but in other states you will not find that box.
Okay. California's
So
got to be different, huh?
always, they're so
All right.
special.
Okay.
So as we continue to work with this document, where you see the state of and the county of, that is your venue. And so
Okay.
as notaries, we are a notary for the entire state that we were commissioned in. So for me, I am a notary in the entire state of Maryland.
Okay.
I was commissioned in Wycomico County, but I could very well be notarizing a document in Baltimore County, which is 2 hours away.
Okay.
So the state of is where the state you're currently in, the state that you are notarizing the document. The county of is where your feet are planted. It is not where you were commissioned. It is not or even the state the property or the county the property is in. It is where you are currently, where your feet are planted, where you're currently notarizing the document, what county you are in at that moment.
That was always a favorite expression of my mom, Carol.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Where your feet are planted. It's a good way to remember it.
she put it so beautifully, it definitely sticks out in my mind years later.
Okay, awesome. So when we fill one of these out, then we're notaries. Let me ask just the naive question. We're writing in state of Maryland and county of where your feet are planted, where that is. So for you, it would, you said Baltimore County might be typical.
Yes, so that is the venue, you would write that in. Sometimes it is pre-filled in, and so I do want to
Okay.
put emphasis on that. If it's pre-filled in, just make sure it's accurate. Sometimes it is not accurate. So if it is not accurate, then the notary would line through what's inaccurate. They would put the correct information, and then they would initial beside it.
I see. Okay. All right. We probably could have come up with an example of that, but you're saying like if this was pre-printed Baltimore County and we're not in Baltimore County, what would another county be?
Wycomico.
Wycomico. Okay, so we would cross out Baltimore, write it in, and initial next to it.
Correct.
Just initial. Okay, perfect.
Just initial.
All right.
So
nothing on this document. Am I wrong? Nothing on this document says acknowledgement. It doesn't say this is an acknowledgement on it.
No, but
it only says right here.
Right. It uses certain language. It uses certain language. So like you pointed out, it says acknowledged or acknowledging or something similar that shows that you are acknowledging. It uses similar language throughout.
Okay.
So for this example, like you pointed out, it says to the within instrument and acknowledge to me that he, she, they executed the same in his or her authorized capacity. So that it in itself is letting you know that this is an acknowledgement.
Okay, great. Okay. I was almost expecting there'd be a headline at the top. Acknowledgement.
It would be so easy if it was.
Okay.
But that probably just makes too much sense.
Well, let's not suggest that, because then California will pass a law and we'll have to redo all of our documents again. Okay, great. What else do we need to know about this?
All right, so there often is missing information. Sometimes you'll find that it's already filled in. You want to make sure it's accurate. And if it's not, then we're going to do the same thing we spoke of earlier, line through, put the correct information and initial. But in this situation, it is not filled in. So what we would do is it would say today's date on whatever date you're notarizing the document. So in this case, we would notarize the document on December 8th. We would fill in the year 2022 or whatever the year is before me. So we're talking about me in this moment. Before me, Andrea, you would put your name, Andrea Douling, a notary public, personally appeared in this situation. We're talking about who appeared before you. So Susan Sample and Samuel Sample, I would print that information in and I would print it in exactly as it is on the signature line. Okay, so then we filled in everything. We now need to notarize the document. So we would sign our name over top the signature of notary. And we would also affix our seal. So we would put our stamp there. I do want to note that we should not put our seal over top of where it says notary seal.
So you put it up here in the white space here.
Correct. We don't want anything covering up our seal. So we always want to make it so that our seal is legible, it's clean, and that there's nothing covering up. The other thing is Notary2Pro recommends that all notaries print their name underneath of their signature. So they would print their name right where you're at. They will print their full name or whatever name is on their notary seal. And then they would put comma notary public.
I see. So there's no question about who notarized the document.
Correct.
A lot of signatures can be falsified, right?
Mhm.
Copied, right? Or
Mhm.
your notary seal could be borrowed or something. Somebody could take it out of your bag or something. So I guess that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Great. Okay, well, thank you for that. Where should we go next? Should we talk about oaths or jurats? And what the heck is a jurat?
Okay, so let me backtrack one moment. There was one thing that I forgot to mention.
Okay,
So when you're looking at the person's ID and
okay,
you're ensuring that they are who they say they are, once you've
okay,
looked and determined that the document that you're notarizing is an acknowledgement, you would then verbalize, you would then ask them, are you signing these documents willingly?
okay,
So with an acknowledgement in some states, the person can sign the document in advance. So let's say you've come to me, you've already signed the document. For an
okay,
acknowledgement, that's perfectly okay in most states. And
okay,
so I would then ask you, did you sign this document willingly?
okay,
So I do want to say that, therefore, when we get to a jurat, we also know the what we need to say, the oath that we need to
okay.
administer.
Okay, so that's an important point. We talked a little bit about the logistics around signing this and the protocol for that. But you start off the conversation with, here's what you're signing, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And are you signing or have you signed this willingly, right?
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. What, Andrea, in all of your years as a notary, has anybody ever said, nope, I was forced into it?
No, but there was one incident where I could tell the person that was signing did not understand what was going on.
Oh, okay. All right.
So then in that situation, I did have to adjourn the
Hmm.
document signing.
Okay. Wow, good to know. Yeah. If
Mhm,
somebody
mhm.
doesn't understand what they're signing, absolutely. Sure.
Right.
I think because I watch so many movies, I imagine some scenario where there's an evil villain standing off to the side with someone as a hostage, forcing the person to sign. Obviously, if that's the case, be safe, but you
Right.
wouldn't want to sign it.
Right. It's normally not that obvious.
Okay.
You have to like go through some things. If I'm doing a regular document signing,
Uh-huh.
I'll ask some general questions to make sure that the person is
Okay.
competent and is aware of what's going on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now I feel like I understand acknowledgement.
Good.
Before we move on, actually, that makes me think though, these come in so many different shapes and forms, right? We'll see all different kinds of documents that basically serve as acknowledgements, right? So again, to emphasize, we're really looking for the words acknowledged, acknowledgement, acknowledging somewhere in the document.
Correct.
Okay. Almost always associated with loans or property?
Well, I've seen quite a bit outside of real estate transactions.
Oh, really?
When
Okay.
when you're doing a loan closing, though, generally you're working with just two types of notarizations. You're working with acknowledgements or you're working with jurats. But outside of outside of loan closings, I've seen acknowledgements quite a bit.
Oh, okay. That's also good to know. Thank you for sharing.
No
Okay.
problem.
Where should we take this next? Do you want to talk through that oath that we saw, or do we want to talk a little bit about jurats and whatever those are?
So I think we need to show what a jurat looks like first.
Okay. Okay. All right. So here's the top of a page that precedes a jurat. Okay.
Correct. So this is the owner's affidavit and indemnification agreement.
Okay.
And if you scroll down, you will see
Okay.
the signature lines for the signers.
Okay.
This document is a typical document that can be found in a loan packet as well. So then Susie Sample and Samuel Sample would sign the document. So scroll down. And this is where your notarial section begins for this document. And as you see, we're starting again with the venue, the state of where your feet are currently planted, as well as the county of where your feet are currently planted.
Okay.
But in this document, we are swearing or attesting or affirming to the truthfulness of its contents.
Okay.
So as you can see, subscribed and sworn to or affirmed, those are our keywords.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we keep going, prove to me on the basis of satisfactory evidence to be the person who appeared before me. So when we are subscribing or swearing to, we're talking about the truthfulness of its contents.
Okay. So okay, so again, using our example before, it might be Baltimore County, Maryland. I can't pronounce the other, I can't remember the pronoun. Okay. And subscribed and sworn to or affirmed before me on this 9th day of December 2022 by, and then what goes there? The name?
The name of the signer.
Okay, the name of the signer. Prove to me on the basis of satisfactory evidence to be the person who appeared before me. So you've validated their ID.
Correct.
Their identity. Okay.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And so the person who's signing this is our section explaining indeed that person signed the document.
And technically with a jurat, all jurats that I'm aware of, I don't know of any state that has any kind of exemption. All jurats must be signed in your presence. So
okay.
Susan Sample and Samuel Sample would need to sign this document in your presence in order for you to notarize the document. And then, yeah. So it's very different from an acknowledgement. Acknowledgement can be signed in advance, and it's just saying you signed willingly, whereas a jurat has it's like a higher step. Yes, you signed willingly, but you did it in the presence of a notary, and you're attesting and affirming that the documents, that the information in the documents are accurate.
So in Maryland is one of those states that you need to watch them sign it. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if you showed up at a signing and they had pre-signed this, what would your course of action be?
I would probably see if we can get a clean version of this document so that they can sign it in my presence.
So reprint it and sign it. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, perfect. All right. And again, I think we're looking at a California document.
Correct.
This box. Okay.
Correct. So as the notary, we would, of course, do exactly what we did with the acknowledgement. We're going to sign the document. We're going to affix our seal. And then we're also going to print our name underneath of our signature, as well as our title, which would be Notary Public. And
then our seal here in the white space.
Correct.
Wonderful. Okay. Is there anything else we need to know about jurats?
So I do want to point out that, so that's what a jurat looks like. Once you determine that you're working with a jurat, you then need to give them the oath. Okay.
This is where the oath comes in.
This is where the oath comes in.
All right.
So you've reviewed the ID, you've determined that the person in front of you and the person signing, everything matches up. So then we're going to administer the oath. So can you go to the actual oath?
Okay, I think it's at the top of our pages. Let me take a look. Here we go. Okay.
So there are two ways that you can do this. You can administer the oath, having them swear to God or a higher power. Or you could administer the affirmation, which excludes God from it, but you're still saying that the information is, in essence, accurate.
Okay.
So some states have very specific wording that must be used, whereas some states, for example, Maryland, is not quite that specific, but in essence, all of the states are trying to say the same thing. The purpose is still the same.
Okay.
So for this one, for the oath itself, you'd say
Mhm.
something along the lines of, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the signature you will place on these documents is your customary and usual signature? Do you solemnly
Hmm.
swear or affirm that you are executing these documents voluntarily for the purposes and the considerations stated therein? And that with respect to any affidavits, the allegations therein are true and correct to the best of your knowledge and belief.
Okay. So this language that you just covered is very specific in some states.
Yes, in some states.
Okay. So we just did a session on what to keep in your notary bag. Would you suggest that notaries obtain the standard language for their state and have this printed out?
Absolutely. So what I did when I first started
Mhm.
is I printed it and I put it on the cover of my notary journal so
Aha.
that until I memorized it, and it took probably a good 10 to 15 closings until I memorized it, I would just use that as my little cheat sheet.
Well, Andrea, you're better than I think it would take me years to remember it. So it's a testament to you that you actually remember this language. I would need the written prompting, I think, indefinitely, probably. So
Look, after a good 500, I'm now, I think, well over 800. I stopped counting.
oh my gosh.
After
Okay.
a while, you're good.
All right. Okay. But yeah, it makes sense. You have this printed, affixed somewhere like your notary journal that you always have with you. You can refer to it and read it, especially in those states where there's very specific language, right?
Mhm.
And I think, at Notary2Pro, we always recommend that notaries go back to their state laws, review the state-specific requirements, right, provided by the Secretary of State in the office that manages notaries, right?
Absolutely. And another side note to
Mhm.
mention is Notary2 always recommends the use of a notary journal.
Mhm.
There are some states that do not require that. However, we want all of the notaries to make sure they cover themselves and they
Mhm.
have a notary journal and they input all the information into the notary journal.
Yeah, it's such an important step because if you're ever called to testify or you're called in a potential lawsuit, you don't want to be relying on your memory or old billing
Mhm.
records or something on this. It's just best to have everything in that journal and the IDs clearly labeled and everything. So wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah, good advice. Okay. Um, I picture a courtroom scene where somebody's standing there and they raise their right hand, they put their hand on the Bible. Do you actually do that, or is it really just a verbal authorization?
So some states do require that the signer raise their right hand. In
Okay.
my state, it is not a requirement,
Okay.
but you are more than welcome to do so because by doing that, even when it's not required, it kind of solidifies that this is a very serious matter.
Hmm.
It kind
Okay.
of makes it ups the ante a little bit.
I see.
So the Bible is not required that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any state that requires the Bible to be present and anyone put their hand on it.
Hmm.
But holding up the right hand is a good idea.
And the affirm portion of this is when someone, I mean, when we use affirm, people feel comfortable using affirm. It's because they're not swearing to any deity or higher power or something, right? So
Correct.
it's just to make sure that everybody's included in this testimony that they're being accurate in what they're saying. Mhm.
That's
Okay.
correct.
Perfect. Okay. Andrea, I feel a lot smarter this morning after having listened to you talk about all the different aspects of jurats and acknowledgements. I now feel like I understand them, so that's awesome.
Good.
Is there anything you feel like we missed, or maybe we want to emphasize in anything that we've talked about for all of our students?
I think it's important to emphasize the fact that Number one, we're working with two different documents here.
Uh-huh.
These are just general documents that you can find in a loan packet. However, there are different variations of them.
Mhm.
You probably will find several different versions that may require you as a notary to insert different ways. For example, the date might be different. The way it appears on the document. You might have to put the full date versus just having to put in 22 or 23 for the last two digits of the year. But there are different variations of it. It's important to just review your documents before you leave the home if you're working with a loan closing. When we're working with general notary work, we don't always have that advantage to review the documents because typically the signer has the documents on them. However, with the loan closing, it's always important to review the documents in advance to ensure that you know what documents you'll be working with.
Right. And understand the difference between an acknowledgement and a jurat and the signature requirements for those. But
Right.
They're all going to fit fairly well within the parameters that we've identified. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else we should cover while we're together, or?
No, I think we did good.
Okay, great. Well, we hope that this is useful for all of our students and all of our friends out in the notary industry. So super. Thanks so much for your help, Andrea. I feel like I just understand this topic a lot better.
Good, good. Glad I
Yeah.
could help.
And we also have an article on Notary2Pro on the same topic that you helped write, I think. So
Assisted a little bit.
so if you need some written follow-up, please find the article on the website. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay.